We ended up flying out to Vegas to shoot. Well, I guess we didn't go out to Vegas to shoot these episodes, but we ended up flying out to Vegas with Agent Academy, Bill Pipes, John Cheplack, some absolute Dan Beers, some absolute OGs in the industry had us out. We brought Mad Cash. And while we were there in Vegas, we decided to get a couple of episodes of the Who's Your Agent podcast done. And the 2 episodes that we did were fantastic. We had Joe Herrera, who was fantastic. He brought up an interesting point that I had not thought about. And if you're an agent that's listening to this, I want you to think about it. But are you putting yourself as an agent into a recession? Are your numbers down more than the market is down, is in essence what it comes down to. So if that is the case for you, then it's probably time to start reevaluating what your practices are professionally, because you know what? The market has changed. And if your numbers are changing more than the market, that's on you. So super excited for you guys to listen to this episode with Mr. Joe. Here we go.
I got goals to chase. I got roads to pave. Not yet where I want to be, but I got close today.
Dude, I'm jealous of the operation here. This is
Dude,
sick.
it's been a long time in the making.
On these dreams like I didn't sleep today.
This is a good one. Realtors are overpaid clowns.
No matter how much I fight this, I'm holding tight like a vice grip.
Because I have harmony within business and life.
Only plus I don't mind this. I don't have time because I'm timeless. Yeah.
The goal for me is to help interview and show off and showcase who I think some of the top agents are in the state. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about you.
So I grew up here in Vegas. We got married in 2002. Went right into real estate from there. I'm a terrible student, graduated high school with like a 1.7 GPA.
Why do you think that's so common? Like, we had Tim in here. Tim got a 16 on the ACT. I got a 17. Why do you think that's so common in this industry?
I think the school system's broken. I think that real estate, to some degree, is the ultimate meritocracy. You hunt or you don't eat. Define that word for us.
And here's why I'm going to ask you to. I've been shocked. So we've been dumping these episodes on YouTube and like across all of our platforms, right? And we'll dump everything. We'll give you the raw because obviously you have your own people that can help you edit everything up. But almost 50% of our watch hours, and we had almost 10,000 watch hours in our first month. Almost 50%, 48% was from kids 18 to 24 years old. Wow. So like I'm stoked on that. Like I am so excited about that. But it's also like helped me understand like, okay, if we're going to use words like meritocracy, we got to so like we had somebody in the other day that does flips primarily, and he's like, yeah, so I start off, I look for the ARV, and I'm like, okay, hold on.
Hold on. ARV, yeah.
Explain to Jonah, who's our target market, what the ARV is, right?
Yeah. So meritocracy is a merit-based economic system where it's not, you look at certain professions and they're based on education. So if you want to be a dentist, you have to have gone to school for a certain amount of time. And then you fall into that ecosystem. And then there's even meritocracy inside the dental industry because some dentists kill it and some barely get by. Well, real estate's the ultimate meritocracy because there is no certification. There is no guarantee of employment where any dentist could get a job as a dentist somewhere. Right? Where with real estate, there's nobody just because you have a license that is willing to pay you a bare bone salary regardless of your ability to produce. Real estate is a hunt or don't eat, a meritocracy. Gary Vee talks about meritocracies all the time. You know, the flipping business is a meritocracy. Any time anybody gets into a situation to where it's hunt or don't eat, like perform or make no money, that is a merit-based system. So the entire U.S. economy is based on meritocracy. You've got car dealerships that are worth millions and millions of dollars, and you've got piece of crap car dealerships that go out of business every single day. Yeah. You've got real estate agents that make 7-figure incomes, 8-figure incomes. Then you've got real estate agents who can't seem to put 2 deals together in a given year. The average real estate agent in America does about 3.7 transactions per year.
Yeah, we looked that up. I think it was like $48,000 was the average take home.
Well, and you think about that, that means somebody like myself makes 7 figures.
More than 48,000.
Yeah. And then a bunch of individuals make 0.
Yeah.
So in order for somebody who makes $1 million to get down to the average of 48,000, that means 19 people need to make 0. And so that is a meritocracy by itself. A non-meritocracy would say that by virtue of having a license, everybody makes $65,000. School teachers is to some degree is not a merit-based system. It's a license-based system.
So what we talk about the barrier to entry quite a bit on this show, right? For most real estate agents, you're going to be 120 hours of online school, pass a test, write a check, and you're there. Do you think that helps or that hurts?
Well, I think our industry is not based on barrier of entry. It's based on barrier of success. So the barrier of entry into real estate is irrelevant because anybody can take an online course and have submitted for their license within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's not a barrier of entry. That's like a speed bump of entry. Like it's not, there's no,
that's like it's a minor inconvenience.
Right.
Yes.
So in real estate, the thing we need to focus on is not the barrier of entry, but the barrier of success. And so I am still trying to figure this out 20 years in. I meet people all the time. We're constantly hiring for our team. We're in Vegas. We've got 3 teams in Utah, Nashville, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, Colorado, Southern California.
How many agents?
Well, in our entire world, there's like 1,200.
Okay.
On our team, there's about 150. So we're always interviewing agents for our team. And 20 years in, after having hired 500 agents to be on our team, I still can't predict without a prior history of success moving forward. And it drives me crazy. I think Gary Keller hits it pretty hard on the why, but people lie about their why.
Yeah.
There's people who hide in real estate offices to pretend like they're working.
Yep.
Their spouse or their girlfriend, their husband, whatever it is, thinks that they're working. So it's,
and they're gone for the whole day.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And they posted on social media that
they're in grinding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still can't predict success by a real estate agent because there have been people that have walked through our doors that I thought were going to be mediocre at best that crush it. Then there's people that did 20 units a year before and then they show up and they do 4. And I can't figure it out other than you have to. So I did a training yesterday for our agents, which was if you take historical success, this is really fun, and then you base it against your current real estate market in your economy. So in Vegas, pending units went down 25% from June 21 to June 22. So I ran all of our agents through an exercise to their pending units in June of 2022 versus 2021. And it was such a simple math equation for them to understand. If you had done 4 deals, if you had created 4 pending units in June of 2022, and you had done 8 in June of 2021, your business was down 50%. You can't blame it on the economy, right?
Yep.
Because mathematically, anything outside of a 25% drop is a you problem. And so we had some of our agents that are down 90%. We're like, that's not the market, that's the you. And so we talked about self-recession and things like that. And so it's,
yeah, I saw that clip on that. I love that clip.
Yeah,
Are you putting yourself in the recession almost, right?
Yeah. Because regardless of what happens in the economy, so think about it this way. So Ben Kinney predicts 20% reduction in transactions. So if a given office does 100 files a year, statistically speaking, that same office will do 80 files the next year. Okay. Well, it's not going to mean 10 agents did 10 units a year and now 10 agents do 8 units a year. What's going to happen is if there's 10 agents that did 100 units in 2021 and now there's 10 agents that do 80 units in 2022, you're going to have individuals go from 10 to 0 and you're going to have individuals go from 10 to 13. And so somebody from the outside would look and go, well, that office is recessed. They've gone down 20, 30, 40% in their production. But if you get into the micro of which agent did what, you're going to find that the
agents put themselves in that situation.
Some agents put themselves to 0, while some agents said, well, crap, if he's not going to do anything, I'll take his units from him.
Yeah, because there's still a finite amount of units that are going to be moved.
Yeah. Well, and what we like to think of, we hear recession and we freak out. I don't know if you were in the industry when the last recession.
I wasn't, but my dad actually runs the builder that I currently work for, and so I remember vividly what it looked like and felt like my first job was working for him, and I was in charge of moving model home furniture.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't afford movers at the time.
Yep. So it hit us hard. I mean, Vegas was ground zero, right? Vegas, Phoenix. Well, agents hear recession and they think 200,000 a year becomes 0 a year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way.
That's not what happened.
No. So in Vegas, we're used to doing 50,000 units a year, 100,000 sides per year. Well, if that goes down to 40, there's still 80,000 sides to be done. So statistically speaking, if you keep on par, you're going to go from 200 to 160. But what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to go from 200 to 0, and then a lot of people are going to go from 200 to 250. And so it's just a self-imposed recession, regardless what the economy does.
What do you think the difference is in those agents? And I know you said you can't hire for it, but if you have that previous track record, what do you think?
I think it's, I honestly think it's meritocracy. I think it's a combination of meritocracy and honesty. Like, I'll tell you a fun story. My wife is the youngest of 5 girls. A couple years ago around the campfire, one of her sisters pulled out a fun, quirky couples questionnaire, right? Like cards you would ask. Yeah. So one of the cards came up and she said, what is the most important element to find in a companion, like a spouse? And the answers were, they've got to make me laugh, and he's got to make good money. And it came to me, and I said, the most important thing for me to offer to my spouse and for my spouse to offer to me is honesty. And my sister-in-law said, that's the least sexiest thing I've ever heard in the world, right? So why do I think some agents succeed when others fail in a meritocracy-based economy? It's because they're not honest with themselves. Like, they really think they're doing what they need to do. That's the scariest part.
And they've convinced themselves of that.
100%.
Yeah, and there's nothing that you can do or say to I mean, it doesn't matter the reality checks that are given. The market is the ultimate reality check, though.
Well, it's a scale, right? Like, the difference between a personal trainer and a scale is a personal trainer will say to you, like, bro, you had a bad week. Like, listen, I'm not going to beat you up too much. Let's just get at it next week. That's a personal trainer's job. A scale, you step on it and it's like, hey, you gained weight. It's like,
and it doesn't matter what your opinion is. It doesn't matter if you think it's because you're wearing baggy clothes that day.
Right.
You can come up with all sorts of excuses.
So over the last 5 years, being a team leader, you can fluff. You can say like, hey, bro, listen, I know you had a bad month. Let's just get them next month, right? And it worked. What our team leaders are finding out is they need to be much more like scales than cheerleaders. Like, hey, you didn't hit your calls last week. That's a non-starter, right? It's not like, hey, let's do better next week. It's more like, hey, you might need to find another place.
This might not be it for you.
Right. And so I think that's the difference. The last 5 years have been order taking. They haven't been sales. Nobody, it's not been a salesmanship environment. If there was any salesmanship used over the last couple of years, it's been negotiating a multiple offer situation and things like that.
But it hasn't been facilitating a transaction like it was prior to.
And it hasn't been consumer faced.
Yeah.
So you think about it. You come to me 2 years ago and you go, hey, I want to buy a home, half-acre lot, whatever. There's going to be 20 offers on it. Now it's me working with the other agent to structure a deal and to some degree share with you what I'm doing on the back end. But it hasn't been dealing with your psyche as much. It's been more like you tell me, hey, I'll pay 25 over asking, and now I've got to go.
And now I have to go negotiate it.
Now agents are having to converse with the client.
Figure out current dissatisfaction, figure out what they're running to. Like, it's the first time in a long time where they've actually had to pay attention to the client.
100%. And what's the number one problem that that clients have with agents in this industry? They don't listen to me. And so I gave a talk up in Salt Lake and it's like the only time I've gone viral on TikTok, I've got like 65,000 views and 600 comments or something. And people got so heated because what I talked about.
Yeah. What was the clip?
So I just said, we will never be able to beat Zillow at helping people find what they're looking for, period.
Which I think is factual.
Zillow is the king of what? Like if somebody goes, I want to buy a house, they're like, let me check Zillow. When somebody knows what they're looking for, there is no better resource than Zillow. Where do real estate agents in the coming economy make our money is in truly understanding why a client is making the decision they're making.
Yeah.
The problem is we have an entire industry of lazy real estate agents that haven't had to deal with why. The only thing
and they've still been able to move product.
They've still been able to move product because the only conversation is what? I need, half acre, RV parking, basement up in Utah, whatever it is. Then they just become order takers filling that what. Now we're having to train our agents like, not what is your client looking for, but why, with all these tornadoes, the inflation, inventory, and interest rates, the triple I's, with all those things floating around, why is your client still thinking that now's a good time to make a move? And if our agents can't answer that question, we send them back to the drawing board. Because they'll say like, hey, I'm looking for this. Does anybody know of a home like this? And I'm like, whoa.
Why are you looking for that?
Why does your client want that?
Yeah.
Like, because if we talked about yesterday the difference between listing a home and selling a listing. They're two different things. And if you don't know your client's motive behind even putting their home on the market, agents are afraid to ask the question. Well, what's the question? Let me ask you this. Why are you thinking of selling your home? Agents don't even want to ask that question because they're afraid the answer is going to be, well, I just kind of want to see what I could get. Like the market's gone
And they don't know where to
crazy.
go with that.
Yeah. And then agents are like, all right, cool. Well, I'll spend $300 in professional photos, $200 for a drone photo. I'll market and advertise it all over the place. I'll use my staff. So I'll be $1,500 to $2,000 into this thing.
And I'm done once they sign.
Well, yes. And I don't even know if they're actually going to sell. Because if their motive, if their why is, well, it went up a lot, I want to see what I can get. Agents have to understand I'm making a $1,500 to $2,000 investment in a guy that wants to test the waters.
It's trying to figure out if this is right for him. Yeah.
Where if you tell me like, well, my wife's been nagging me because I'm parking the boat in the driveway and she's tired of seeing it and we hate our school district and my neighbor flips off my kids. All right, now I know that guy's motivated. But if I don't know the why, I don't even know how to give them guidance. So one of the conversations we've been having, something we learned during the recession, which is unique, is it takes 2 weeks for the home buyer population to adjust to whatever news they're given. So why do I think the real estate economy demand is being hurt? It's because the government is trying on purpose to send us into a recession. And so home buyers are not able to accept what happened 2 weeks ago because they're getting hit like every 8 days.
Yeah.
And so
they're not having that 2 week time to reset.
So during COVID, we would have our sales meeting and everybody would be like, all right, I'm working with these, collectively 35 buyers, right? The next week we would show up because they shut down New York City again or whatever. And they're like, yeah, half of our buyers are out. They said they're not buying anymore. This is crazy. They, don't.
And this was like March 2020, right? March,
April.
April.
It would happen all the time. It would happen
during the time.
Every 2 months we'd get hit with a 2 week break. So then the buyers would say like, I'm out. And then 2 meetings later, it's like, yeah, all my buyers are back in. And so I started noticing a trend and I was like, all right, it takes about 2 weeks for buyers to go.
To like accept the new reality.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Now, the interest rates are not the problem. If interest rates are 4%, 5%, 6%, that's not the problem. The problem is the perceived and real tanking of the economy. Because people are concerned, well, I might be able to get a 6% interest right now, but homebuyers are smart enough to know if that goes to 8.5%, that home I just bought for 7% on a payment that is a little bit uncomfortable for me, when it goes to 8.5%, no one will be able to afford my home. So there's just that psyche that they won't leave it alone long enough for people to adjust to get back into the market. Because you guys know, I mean, you could do interest rate buy downs. You can get people to.
There's a bunch of different ways that you can manipulate monthly payments.
Right. But if they don't give the homebuyer community enough time to react to whatever, like give them the 2 weeks to accept whatever news they're given, then they'll never make the adjustment. Therefore, they're in a constant state of panic. And that's what we're seeing now is homebuyers are just going, hey, I'm out. Like, this is crazy. And then we'll get close to that 2 week mark and they start coming back. And then inflation comes in at 9.1%. The Fed's going to raise the rate by a point and people freak out again. So,
yeah. And it almost feels like COVID was an interesting time because everything shut down, but it felt very like man-made, held back.
Right.
There was like this feeling of like an artificial, which it's a very similar feeling now where I feel like my personal opinion is if all of a sudden, and we just got hit with it from a credit union in Utah, that if we get a 40-year mortgage, if all of a sudden you get a 40-year AM and monthly payments drop again $500 to $600 a month, we're going to see buyers pick back up again, I think. Right? Like we're very, that's what I mean when I say it's almost like an artificial slowdown. Is it's not like in 2008, you had a full on mortgage crisis. You had full on issues. This is just the government saying, like you just said, we're going to slow this thing down. But if all of a sudden you have a 40, it'll be very interesting to see kind of what happens and what products roll out, what different avenues people take to kind of approach this, right?
Well, in 2008, you had every valet parker, stripper, and blackjack dealer in Vegas own 6 or 7 properties.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't real. So I think you're 100% accurate. This is man-made, and the government's not even trying to pretend it's not.
No, they're being very open about it.
We're going to stop inflation by whatever it takes. Well, how do you know when it starts to work? Well, a couple things. When you go to Costco and people's carts are a little bit smaller or there's less people there, you'll know that people are starting to conserve their money. I played golf yesterday with a buddy of mine that owns a tattoo parlor. And I'm like, how's your books? And he's like, dude, we're freaking slammed. I'm like, all right, well, you'll know the recession or the inflation
what the government's trying to do is working.
when not your irresponsible tattoo clients, but your responsible tattoo clients go, you know what, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to wait and see. I'm kind of worried about some stuff. That's when you'll know it's working. But again, we still have supply issues. Like supply chain's a real thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've been talking about these tornadoes for the last year and a half, which is, I don't know which is going to win. Inventory's an issue. It's a storm.
How short are you guys here in Vegas?
Our inventory right now is about 3 weeks.
Okay.
So depending on what the generally accepted neutral market is 6 months inventory. So again, that comes back to perspective.
Have you guys, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, we've seen an increase of listings. We're almost up 4x where we were.
Yeah.
What have you guys seen?
We're up, but it's nothing like that. But the funny part is, if you go from 2 weeks of inventory and you 4x, you're now at 2 months of inventory.
You're still short.
You're still 4 months short.
Yeah.
But if you tell so here's my problem with media, and here's my problem with real estate agents and the media they pay attention to. If we're not careful about the information we ingest, we will send ourselves into a recession. Because if somebody
a personal
recession.
Yeah.
If somebody goes, dude, the inventory in Utah has quadrupled in the last 2 months.
It absolutely has.
The sky's falling.
Days on market is up 50%.
Sky's falling.
Yeah.
But if you go, our inventory went from a week to a month, and days on market went from 10 to 15, dude, what are we talking about, right? It's a lack of perspective that people, like, they freak out about the statistics that the media uses to manipulate people. But when you truly ingest the statistics and go, so we quadrupled our inventory, but we went from a week to 4 weeks, and our time on market went up by 50%, but it went from 10 days to 15 days. Dude, 15 days is still amazing.
That's still 30 less than what it very easily could be.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, selling homes post-recession, I mean, we would sign 6-month listing agreements, not because we didn't want to do the paperwork if it fell out, but because it might take 6 months to sell the house.
Yeah.
And that was just what we did.
You got started in what year? You said 2002?
2002.
So what was it like back then for you?
2002?
Yeah. And why'd you pick real estate?
So graduating high school, I went on a 2-year mission for my church. Coming home with a terrible GPA, but a desire to make great money. I knew that I was good with my mind and my mouth. I knew I'd make way more money with my mind and mouth than I ever would with my hands. So
know your strengths, real estate agents that are listening.
So my options were insurance or real estate. I admired the residual nature of insurance.
Yeah.
But I also admired the big ticket sales of real estate. So I had a mentor of mine. He ran a real estate company here, and I was like, hey, man, I think I want to become a realtor. And he connected me with one of the top producers in Vegas, a guy named Frank Napoli Sr. I drove limo for him while he was showing homes while I was getting my real estate license. Got my real estate license. First deal I ever did was knocking doors. The second door I knocked, the guy needed to sell his house. So I was never really a team agent. Like on a team. So I was on his team for a couple of weeks, and I was like, hey, I want to go do this myself because I knew better. So from 2002 to 2006, when the economy crashed, I just didn't know any better. Like, we ran ads in Homes and Land magazine and hired a couple of buyer's agents, ended up partnering up with a guy named Taylor in 2005. I was like, hey, let's do this together. And we were making more money than 20-something-year-old kids
had any business doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were out to eat every single night and traveling with the UNLV basketball team. And then the recession hit, and it got real. We got through it because we got a REO contract with a bank, a real estate owned, like a bank-owned foreclosed property contract. And then Barack Obama gave billions of dollars to local municipalities to buy properties for affordable housing called the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And so we got a contract with the city of Las Vegas to help them buy houses. Were it not for those two things, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably be renting snorkel gear on the North Shore of Hawaii or something.
Well, that's what I had somebody tried to sue me a couple of years ago for like an ethics complaint. It ended up getting thrown out. But I remember that feeling of like, if I get my license taken, I don't know what I go and do.
Yeah.
And there's a certain power to that, right?
Yeah, there's power in it, but then there's also a realization that real estate is that ultimate financial, economic meritocracy. There's so, like, my obsession right now is not the sale of a home. My obsession right now is how do we monetize this? Like, I learned from Open Door and OfferPad. They were making crazy offers on properties, and I got with one of their guys, and I was like, dude,
will you give anybody that's listening that doesn't quite understand what that looked like from these, because this was a very real thing that happened, and it kind of jumped like crazy over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, where you really saw these companies come in. Break OfferPad down in 2 minutes or less, if you could.
Yeah. Well, so let me tell you, there's two things that happen in a growing real estate economy. There's two different companies that show up. Home buyers that will take away the inconvenience of listing your home and getting a full price offer. OfferPad, Open Door. They'll just, if somebody says like, hey, I peed all over my carpet in my bathroom and I don't want to show the house because my wife doesn't keep it clean, or my husband leaves his underwear all over the place, or whatever. Open Door, just like a used car lot, will say like, hey man, your house is worth 200.
Your house in.
Yeah, your house is worth 200. We'll give you 160, and you can leave the pee on the carpet. We don't care. And there is a segment of the population that's attracted to it, thankfully, because we run one of those companies ourselves. So that happens in a growing real estate economy. And the second thing that happens is the discount real estate brokerage. So I was at the Jazz game when they played the Mavericks, and the guy that I went with hit me up and said they were sponsored by Homie. And no offense, Homie's in Vegas, whatever. And he was like, are you afraid of the Homie business model? And I said,
very common question.
Well, and my answer is very simple. Homie's not a business model. They're a symptom. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I've been around long enough that I remember Help You Sell Real Estate and Mr. Fizbo and all these things. All they were.
Homie's not a unique idea.
It's a discount brokerage that exists in this kind of economy. When your home will sell literally no matter what you do, then it's a race to the bottom cost-wise. Their business model struggles a lot. Obviously, they've been laying people off.
They laid off agents when the market was really good, right? I think they laid off like 20-something% of their agents before the market shifted.
Right. And it's because, and it's nothing against them, but to talk to the discount brokerage model, it only works when you could do virtually nothing. In an appreciating market. In an appreciating market, the home will still sell and you facilitate the paperwork and make a little bit of money. When we, as real estate professionals that know what we're doing, that have business models, that have marketing companies, that shoot video and drone and all those things to tip the laws of supply and demand in our sellers' favor, this is the greatest economy for us because people actually need us and they'll pay for it. So that TikTok I did that got 65,000 views, everybody said like, well, nobody needs you anyways. Your business is a dinosaur. And I'm like, bro, you're right. In the economy we just came out of, nobody needs me. But in the economy we're heading into now, with the largest financial asset most people will ever have, they need somebody that knows what they're doing to help them liquidate it, or else they're going to leave $50,000, $100,000 on the table. And so for them, it's not necessarily even about saving money. This is that cost versus value thing. The cool thing for real estate agents is if you have a business model, if you could provide value, you're heading into the greatest economy you've ever seen. That's the person that will take market share because they actually do things for their clients that justify the cost. If it's a race to the bottom cheap thing, I mean, it's, you know, that model really struggles in the economy we're in or heading into. It thrives in the economy we just came from.
Well, I love that you said that because that's been the premise of why we started this from the very beginning. Is because the value that I have seen and the value that I have witnessed that agents can create is massive. That doesn't mean though that is every single agent. The number that we use is I think it's 28,000 or so active real estate agents in the state of Utah. 7,500 of those did one transaction or less in the last 12 months. Yep. Those are not the people that you should have representing you on this purchase or sell.
Well, I did a video that I personally loved, which was the number one mistake real estate agents make is they rely too much on their friends and family. And the number one mistake that their friends and family make is they rely too much on their friend and family member.
Yeah,
it's like, bro, keep in mind, unless you're going to buy an airplane or a yacht, this is the largest financial transaction you will ever make. So you may have admired that your brother-in-law that works construction has also hustled a couple of homes on the side. I'm not knocking it at all.
Are you willing to pay him $40,000, $50,000, $60,000?
And put in his hands the largest asset you've ever acquired and may ever liquidate because he's your friend or family member. This is where I am. I had to have my son's wisdom teeth removed. I've got a family member that is an oral surgeon, but I took him to somebody else that I felt more confident because my family member is kind of old school in the way they operate on things. And so for me, it's like when it comes to large numbers of dollars or health and safety of my children, it's like it's not a family issue at that point. It's a merit-based issue.
Well, I mean, it is a family issue, and it's a family issue of what is going to give you the best opportunity to make this the best experience possible.
Right.
And if you're not doing everything that you can as a family member to put yourself in that position, and then I see you complaining about it and bitching about it on Instagram or Facebook or something later about what do you do when your friend doesn't want to buy from you, you get better. That's what you do, is you have to get better.
I'll tell you, a moment of celebration is when a friend or family member, a close friend or family member is selling a home, and you have the financial ability to tell them you don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you know you're killing it. Because I've told family members, like, I don't want to list your home. Like, I'm going to have somebody else do it because I don't want to deal with you.
In the nicest way possible.
In the nicest way possible. And I'm like, so I know now certain people are going to go like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Take every piece of business you can, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, every single deal we do, every time I get involved in something, I always ask myself a couple of questions. What's the upside and what's the noise? And if I can't answer that the upside outweighs the noise, then I just don't do it. The problem is, as real estate professionals, most real estate agents are insecure about the money they make, because they make $37,000 selling a new home that took them 2 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
So then they run around trying to be everything to everybody. I gave up that game a long time.
Oh, that's my biggest pet peeve. Like when buyer's agents disappear for 9 months, and then we're at the orientation 48 hours before closing, and they come in right there trying to make their 3% on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're putting a marble on the countertop and making sure that marble doesn't roll. And it's like, that's not real. Like,
Where have you been?
what are you doing?
Right.
But I understand it, right? I understand where that insecurity comes from, I think.
Well, and it manifests itself in different ways. So showing up for a walkthrough is one of them, but where it really manifests itself is when that same real estate agent is moving boxes into the person's house. That same real estate agent is painting the house for them. That same real estate agent is, digging sprinklers in the backyard. And it's not that they're not kind. Kindness is great. It's that they're insecure about the money they made because they knew they didn't earn it. Therefore, they're trying to earn it on the back end.
And that's not the way to do it.
It's not the way to do it.
So what advice right now, obviously the market has shifted. There's agents that are saying it's shifting, and it's very clear that no, the market has already shifted. So what advice are you giving buyers and sellers currently?
So consumers?
Yeah.
I think now's a great time to buy a home. Now's a great time to sell a home. We can structure any deal however you want it to be structured. Now is not a great time to speculate. Like, if somebody said, hey, should I buy a home right now? And I'm like, well, tell me your timeline. Like, again, why are you doing this?
Yeah, and I think that's what's more important right now than ever before is why, like, it was a great time to buy a house, I think, a year and a half ago, when a lot of people were saying, hey, there's multiple buyers out there. You're having multiple offers on everything. I don't think anybody that bought a house a year and a half ago and had to pay multiple offer pricing is kicking themselves right now. So I do think that it, especially if you're on a busy road and you just have a new kid that just learned how to walk and you need to get off of that street because you don't want your son to get hit by a car, it doesn't matter what interest rates are at.
Well, and the interest rate to rent a property is 100%.
Exactly.
So it's not a bad time to purchase. It's not a bad time to sell. It's a bad time to be a freaking maniac.
Yeah.
Like, if your neighbor sold their home for $600,000 and it's better than yours, there was a time where we would go $625 or $650 because the clock had ticked. It had
been 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not now. So if you're a home seller saying, well, that guy got $6, I want to get $650, you're technically a maniac at that point. It's just not going to happen in today's economy. The problem is real estate agents are not being reality. They're not checking facts.
Well, do you think that's like a lack of ability at this point? Because I think that's a big portion, is that the skill set that people are having to use now was not the same skill set that they have been sharpening for the last 2 years. And it's almost easier to sound crazy and to blame it on the market than it is to blame it on yourself as an agent right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to blame somebody who was raised in one world that has a hard time adapting to the next. But when you asked earlier, like, why do some agents succeed and some don't? I think some are able to adapt. I love the moment in Batman when Bane says to Batman, like, I was born in the dark. You were merely adapted to it, right? Like, real estate agents are going to have to adapt, and their ability to adapt will determine whether or not they will be licensed real estate professionals in the next couple of years. If they don't adapt, they won't be. And that's no knock, right? Like, sharks are great, eagles are great. Like, over the last couple of years, There's been so much food that sharks have eaten and eagles have eaten. The reality is moving forward, if you're not a shark, no hard feelings, but you may be an eagle. Eagles are awesome, but eagles probably won't succeed in the coming real estate economy. It's going to be the hardcore, absolute killers that really take advantage of the coming economy. I learned a valuable lesson, the difference between salespeople and customer service individuals. They look the exact same.
Yeah.
I call them sharks and eagles. So I think it's a great time to be a home buyer. It's a great time to be a home seller. And it's a great time to be a real estate professional. But that doesn't guarantee success for anybody. There has to be logic. There has to be experience. There has to be salesmanship. There has to be hustle. There has to be all of those things that go in. But you know what I'm excited about is next summer, July 2023. The agents that are there are going to be absolute killers.
I think, and what that translates to for a consumer is that the bang for your buck, the value that those agents are creating for you, I think is going to be massive, and it's going to be unlike anything that we've seen in the last 2 years because that hasn't had to be there.
Totally agree.
So you obviously spend a ton of time breaking down kind of the dichotomy of what makes a good real estate agent and what doesn't. If you were interviewing for a real estate agent today, if you were getting ready to buy or sell a house, let's say you're not an agent, let's say this is out of state, let's say it's a situation where you're not representing yourself. Right. What are some of the things that if you pieces of advice that you would give to a consumer saying, hey, this is how I would go about finding a good real estate agent?
So the information age is dead, right? If anything, we're in the misinformation age.
I agree.
So the information age is dead. The only thing that matters is, in my opinion, is other individuals' experience with that individual. Like, if I was to list a home, I own a home in Utah. If I was going to list that home and I didn't have my own people in place, I would purely say, will you please send me your track record? Like, please send me your reviews. Because the only thing that matters, like, think about this. I don't even go out to eat when I'm out of town unless I've verified the reviews of the restaurant, period. I don't watch a movie unless I've read the reviews of the movie. So why on earth am I going to trust my largest sale ever to somebody who doesn't have the track record of success? So then that sounds very unfair to the brand new agent.
So that's what I was going to say. So like, because we had a kid on, how old was Caden? 21. This kid's 21 years old.
Yep.
Licensed for 6 months. He had one transaction under his belt at this point. And I told him, I was like, if you come on the show, I'm going to ask you the hard questions, right? And so I looked at him point blank and I said, why in the hell should somebody work with you?
Yeah.
Right. What advice would you give to a new agent that's like, or would you completely steer clear of a new agent?
Well, I mean,
that's a loaded question.
Knowing what I know, would I hire a brand new agent? No. But if I was a brand new agent and so I was 21 selling
I was 23,
real estate.
24,
yeah.
right? It can be done. It can be done.
The number one piece of advice I would give you is affiliate with a team that has a proven track record and reputation. Like I tell the agents that join our team, you don't have to be great. If you Google real estate agents in Las Vegas, the top 2 reviewed Google pages are both us. Like,
congratulations.
Thank you. One is our brokerage, one is our team. 5-star reviews. Like, and I tell our agents, don't walk in there and go, hey, I'm former military and, this is my second home, but I'm going to work really hard for you. I would say go in there and say, last year our team sold 1,000 homes in Las Vegas.
And these are the reviews from those 1,000
Here are the reviews
homes.
from actual clients that have worked with us in the past. Go to our Facebook page. We have 21,000 followers on Facebook. We have 200 plus 5-star reviews. There is no doubt I could sell you every single, I could sell you how great I am, whatever. But the reality is that's just me being a good salesperson. What I want you to do is I want you to not take my word for it. I want you to listen to the words of the hundreds and thousands of people who've trusted us in the past. So that's what I would do. If I was a brand new agent, I would say, Mike Perry's group up there, Springs team, Utah Life team. Like I would affiliate with one of those teams that are absolutely amazing because you don't have to have your own track record if you can lean on the track record of your team.
Jonah, any other questions? Do we cover everything? Okay, well, seriously, we appreciate you coming on the show. This is the first time that we've done anything from outside of Utah, and I think
awesome.
If you're looking in Vegas, this team that Joe runs down here is absolutely incredible. They come highly recommended from people that we've had on the show, people that we're going to have on the show, and I think, like we've touched on a little bit so far, who you who you hire as your agent, who's your agent going forward, is going to mean more than anything in the next couple of years.
Right.
So
100%.
we appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.